Hello, I'm Caroline Bradley. Welcome to this edition of the Marriage Challenge podcast, brought to you each month by Care for the Family. It's great to have you with us. Today I'm really delighted to be joined by Paul and Priscilla Reid, who are going to talk about the vow we make when we get married, for better, for worse. But before we get into all that, let me introduce them. Paul and Priscilla have been involved in senior church leadership for over 3 decades in Northern Ireland, and now they spend their time speaking both in the UK and internationally. Paul and Priscilla have been married and they've just recently celebrated 40 years. They've got 4 adult daughters who are all married, so that means they've got 4 great son-in-laws as well, and an ever-increasing family of grandchildren. Currently, I think 5 and another one on the way.
Yes.
Paul and Priscilla, welcome. It's just great to have you with us today.
Hi Caroline, thanks so much for the opportunity to be able to do this.
Yes, Caroline, it's great to be with you.
Great, well we're thrilled to have you. But before we tackle our topic, we always love to hear how the romance gets started, and especially a long-standing romance like yours. How did it all begin?
Well, I was 16 and Priscilla was 14.
Wow.
And I met her in a Bible class on a Sunday afternoon. And I looked across the room and there she was. She had braces on.
That is braces in my teeth,
Yes.
not other sorts of braces.
And we got to know each other, and I went out with her for a walk on her 15th birthday. And that was how it started.
The rest history.
Exactly. It was a wonderful, wonderful day.
Yes, I think we
Is that
did.
your version, Priscilla?
I think we did it. Was it about? It was
7.5 years
before we got married. Not necessarily to be recommended, but nevertheless, it was.
Yep.
We were childhood sweethearts, really.
Wow, wonderful. And you've lasted for 40 years. That's
Yeah.
marvellous. So you've been married for 40 years and you're still loving it by the sounds of it. So it would be really lovely for our listeners to know, what is the key to that long-term marriage that you've had?
Well, I think probably for us one of the keys is that we've been able to laugh together over the years, and that might seem very superficial, but honestly, not to be always taking yourself too seriously. Life is serious, and life throws up many serious things. But really, if you can try to make the important things, and let go of some of the less important things, and learn to laugh about things. And I mean, I'd have to say that's Paul's forte. I mean, he manages to make me laugh in the most ridiculous situations. So while that might seem very superficial, honestly, I think we enjoy doing life together. We enjoy each other's company, and so that has been one of the keys.
Yes, and we're very different people in that I am a sports fan, football fan, and Priscilla has never been to a football match with me. But nonetheless, we enjoy each other's company. And as she said, we take what we do seriously, but we don't take ourselves too seriously. And that's been really important on the journey. We realised pretty early that we came from very different backgrounds. My parents were divorced, so I had seen the difficulties that came about because of obviously marriage breakup. And so when I went into marriage, I was absolutely committed to seeing it work. And I remember on one occasion when we were married a short time, we had a bit of a row, and Priscilla went to the spare room with her pillow and closed the door, and then
Paul appeared and said, "Priscilla, you are not sleeping in here tonight." And I was always, it took me a long time if we had a row to get talking again. And he said, "No, you're not sleeping in here tonight, because do you know something? We are never getting divorced. And so you're going to have to start to talk to me sooner rather than later. So let's make it sooner."
So it was a really intentional decision, a choice that you made.
Absolutely.
To work at it.
Do you know that we laugh about that now, but actually I would say that was a pivotal moment in our marriage, because it was the fact that we intentionally said to each other, do you know, we're saying we are never going to get a divorce. And some people would say that's presumptuous, but we felt that once we had made that decision, then whatever we were facing, we had to work it through.
Very good. So that's been the key for you. But obviously that's had lots of benefits for you as individuals and as a couple. What kind of benefits do you think that long-term choice to be committed has had for you?
Well, from my perspective, I think the biggest impact it's had for me is a sense of security. If you wake up every day thinking, I wonder will I be good enough today for my husband, for Paul, to love me? Will I perform? Will I meet his expectations? And so he will stay with me. Paul, what is it you always say? About no relationship.
No relationship can flourish in an atmosphere of disapproval. So therefore, if you wake up every day and think, if I do well today, and I, my husband may love me, you'll never build any relationship in that. So there has to be unconditional love, and that's been the real key. So we wake up every day and we go, because we love one another, where something's going to happen here, we're going to stay together, and it was a commitment that we made. I think we realised, as going out together as teenagers, there was the initial, it lasts, the chemistry, the passion, the desire, but the reality is you can't do that every day of the week. Yeah. There are days you wake up and you look across the pillow and you go, okay. but
you didn't tell me.
I didn't tell you that.
Lose all your hair at one point.
Exactly. But I think it's really important that whole idea of love becoming a decision that you make rather than something that you feel all the time. Yeah. Because there are things that you go through as a couple, even external things, illness, family difficulties, your kids, and you have to make the commitment that I will love this person no matter how I feel on any given day. Now, it's not that, my heart still skips a beat when I see Priscilla. Oh. So we've still got that. But there are days
when we tread on each other's toes, we get on
exactly.
each other's nerves. But on those days, you still make the decision, I'm committed to this person and I'm committed to love them. And I think, again, going back to the security thing, I honestly think people can develop themselves. Like, you become more of who you were meant to be by having that sense of security, that almost like you're not constantly looking for the other person to, be fulfilling something in you, but you just know that they're committed to you, so you're free to develop as a person, I think, as well.
So if there was 2 or 3 ways then that a couple who really want to demonstrate that commitment to each other could do, what would you say you could do to really demonstrate that commitment?
Well, I think one of the ways you demonstrate the commitment is through compromise, because life together is a compromise. I mean, Paul was joking about, he is a football fanatic. I couldn't even sit and watch a football match through on the television. But, that isn't a bone of contention between us, but it could have become a bone of contention. And it is that thing of learning, this isn't important enough to, to fall out over, that we can compromise. And there are the smaller issues in life that you're faced with every day that you just have to learn, to rub alongside each other and not make, it's a bit like with your children, you've got to pick your issues and you've got to not make everything the big issue. So I think compromise is one of the ways that you can show the other person that you're really committed to them.
Yes, I think it's understanding what makes your partner tick. So there are things that Priscilla will do for me, give to me, say to me, and I know, something, she has taken the trouble to think about this. She loves me. She knows it's important to me. And therefore, I think you do the same then for your partner. And in trying to understand who they are, you affirm them, and you it's saying something to them that you love them, and what's important to them is important to you.
So you prioritise them?
Yes, exactly.
Well, it's a bit like, for me to feel loved, you just have to, buy me a bunch of flowers and a box of chocolates. But, in the beginning, I think I tried to make Paul feel loved in a way that I wanted to be loved. But then I started to learn, well, that's not how it works. He would feel far more loved if, I
Sky Sports.
Yes, I said, let's get Sky Sports, and on an evening, a week, you can just sit and watch sports all night. And that would mean something to him. And so we had to learn, not to love each other in the way we wanted to be loved, but in the way that the other person wanted to be loved. Put yourself in the other person's shoes.
Yes. Not everything is life or death. So as Priscilla said earlier, it's not a question of, is this right or wrong? Most things in life, lots of things aren't right or wrong. They're just my preference, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just go, hey, whatever.
And we had to learn that earlier on, because we're both very strong-willed and we're both very self-opinionated. So when we were married
Speak
at
for
first...
yourself.
When we were married at first, it was even down to, there is a right way to boil an egg and there is a wrong way to boil an egg.
My mother didn't do it like that.
And so, and then I remember actually something like that. You said to me, Priscilla, do you know something? There's no right or wrong in this. It's just different. And once you realise that, that's very releasing.
Yeah, it's working out the way you guys want to do life together. It's great. So you've said it already, we know lots of relationships have their ups and downs. There's good times and there is struggles. How would you really encourage people to keep going with that commitment no matter what season they're in? How do you do that when it's tough?
I think you remember your vows. It sounds a bit funny, but really, whenever you go to a wedding, is it just a celebration, or there's really something going on when you make that commitment to each other? And I think when we look back and we think about, I promised to, and we go through the things. Now, we don't literally do that, but I just remember, something, I made a promise, I made a vow, I made a commitment, and I'm going to stick by this. It's really important, no matter what happens to us. And to be honest, the thought of starting again, oh my goodness.
But also I think, as you look back and you see the pressure times in your life together, and we get the luxury of doing that now, we're 40 years married, but I remember when the girls were small and the pressure of small children and how tired you could be at times, and you felt you had so little time for each other, and those were the danger moments. And I suppose in those moments to try and take a little step back, and it doesn't have to cost a lot of money, but just to get a few hours together, invest in your relationship, spend time with each other, make sure that all through the years, if you have children, all through the years of them growing up, you still continue to invest in the relationship. That is so important. It just won't flourish by itself. A plant needs to be fed and it needs to be watered and it needs the sun to shine on it. So for your relationship with your husband or wife, you really need to invest in the relationship through those pressure times of young babies, toddlers and all the rest of it. Just try to find some way to get a little bit of time to yourselves.
That's wonderful. Those are great insights and so encouraging. And just looking at you, we know it can be done. Celebrating 40 years, so wonderful. And each month we just love to ask our guest couple to set a bit of a challenge for our listeners that they can try in the coming month. So Paul and Priscilla, what would be the challenge you would set our listeners today?
Well, we thought it would be good perhaps in the next month to set aside some time for you to be together and have a conversation, but in that conversation to include 3 reasons why you love your husband or your wife.
Or what you love about them.
Yes, that's great.
Yes.
That's a good challenge and a great way to choose to invest in each other in the coming month. So we hope you will join in with the challenge and try it at home. Do drop Care for the Family Facebook page a line and let us know how you get on. Paul and Priscilla, thank you so much for sharing with us today. And it's a reminder also that you can sign up for the Care for the Family website to receive more news and updates from this podcast. When you do, you automatically receive a 20% discount off your next purchase from the Care for the Family shop. So do check that out too. That's all for this episode. And again, I just want to say, Paul and Priscilla, thank you for joining us. And we really look forward to tackling another marriage challenge next time. Goodbye.
You have been listening to the Marriage Challenge podcast. For further information about our courses, resources and events, visit us at www.careforthefamily.org.uk.